Krakoa has just begun to fight. Mutantkind has never had a greater fall. From the highs of Krakoa, their own glorious nation, a place where they were safe and happy, to the lowest of lows. Outlawed, hunted, killed, most of their kind missing or dead, and now one of their greatest leaders, Cyclops, is on trial facing a death penalty. Ready or not, the time has come for the X-Men to make their final stand against the forces that have struck them low. The day is now. The place is here. The tale of the house of Xavier built will long be told, and few will forget their darkest chapter. From writer Greg Dugan, X-Men, Marauders, Uncanny Avengers, and artist Lucas Werneck, Immortal X-Men, X-Men, The Trial of Magneto, comes half the story that will bring the Krakoa age to its conclusion. Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 1, The Trial of Cyclops. But those of who live we resist. Are you ready to go to war? Quote Polaris. The story begins with Cyclops experiencing a recurring dream. Though he's aware it's a dream, it feels undeniably real. In this dream, he finds himself forcibly dragged into an angry town, perplexed by the undeserved hostility directed at him. The means of transportation is a horse guided by a mysterious figure clad in a black trench coat and hat, symbolizing death. Cyclops contemplates that perhaps deserving or not has no bearing on the situation. Instead, it must be intertwined with his destiny and fate. Despite Cyclops' awareness that he will have an opportunity to speak, the presence of the villagers and the townspeople among his peer diminish its significance. He remains physically restrained with ropes marked by the ominous symbol of death, emphasizing the gravity of the situation. Cyclops senses that the trial is rigged with a judge he recognizes, someone he thought he knew. As Mr. Sinister declares him guilty on all counts, he's left astonished and betrayed by the person he once trusted, who has seemingly thrown him to the wolves. Swift justice awaits, and hanging looms ominously in my future. Despite the impending danger, Cyclops should be scared, yet an unusual calmness surrounds him. As Cyclops reclaims his innocence, the world seems to crumble beneath his feet. A red-haired onlooker observes as the ground beneath Cyclops vanishes, leaving him in a precarious and uncertain situation. However, Cyclops defies the expected fall, remaining suspended in the sky, defying gravity as he hovers above the ground. Suddenly, Cyclops awakens to find himself inside an armored car, his heart pounding, hands restrained behind his back. A special visor covers his eyes, and underneath they have been sewn shut, ensuring that nothing can inadvertently shoot out from his powerful gaze. With the doors of the armored car wide open, sunlight spills onto Cyclops, triggering a recollection. He vividly remembers being 1,000 miles away from the Hellfire Gala when he sensed the moment Jean Grey perished. Despite the distressing sensation of feeling Jean's death, Cyclops retains a sense of calm. Having experienced this before, he holds on to belief that, as in previous instances, Jean will come back. Cyclops reflects on his predicament, acknowledging that Orchis has orchestrated his trial strategically with all the mutants as his co-defendants. Despite seemingly playing along, he is buying time for the resistance to mount a counter-offensive. The insidious nature of Orchis lies in their ability to manipulate public sentiment, making everyone cheer at the mutants' suffering. Drawing a parallel with the historical trial of Magneto in Paris, Cyclops anticipates that this time the trial will unfold as Orchis intends. However, he is confident that the broader war will not go according to plan. The conflict involves two sides, one supported by Sentinel Iron Man and humans who harbor hatred towards mutants, while the other side unites humans with mutants and the X-Men in their shared struggle. During the concurrent age, a remarkable era marked the fusion of advanced technology and mutant abilities. Mutants harnessed their powers to create a carbon-negative nation that extended across multiple worlds, including Earth, Mars, and beyond. Historians widely agree that one of the pinnacles of this primordial mutant technology was called the Fastball Special, an iconic move where Colossus throws Wolverine as fast and a deadly projectile towards their enemies. In this particular instance, Colossal readies his arms as Wolverine assumes a lock and loaded position, claws unsheathed for the impending attack. With uncanny accuracy, Colossus hurls Wolverine at the target, who wears a big grin on his face. The absence of the rule against killing humans adds a newfound newfound sense of freedom and ferocity to Wolverine's demeanor. In the aftermath of the Hellfire Gala, where numerous mutants were seemingly killed, displaced, or forced into hiding, Colossus and Wolverine find themselves beneath the Paris courthouse, seething with discontent. An Orchis soldier, unaware of the futility, fires at Colossus' armor, causing no damage. Deviating from the traditional fastball special, Colossus seizes an Orchis soldier and dubs the move the Pinata Special. With a grin, he hurls the soldier towards Wolverine, introducing a unique and seemingly improvised tactic to their repertoire. Treating the Orchis soldier as a pinata, Wolverine swiftly cuts him open. However, as he does so, the word awful escapes his lips, acknowledging the less than flattering nickname for the move. Wolverine comments, "That's a terrible name, Pete. I thought you Russians were poets." Colossus responds, "I'm not feeling very poetic." Colossus declares, "Let's go liberate Cyclops." In response, Wolverine jokes, "What if we call that move the Screwball Special, keeping the atmosphere light amid their mission?" Colossus inquires, "Why Screwball, Wolverine?" To which Wolverine responds, "'Cause they were screwed." Colossus simply replies, "Da," acknowledging the aptness of the name. "Cyclops, someone is coming to see you," the Orchis soldier announces. Cyclops wittily responds from his dream, "Is it a redhead with sharp objects floating around her?" The Orchis soldier clarified, "No, it's Dr. Aaliyah Gregor. She worked on the new Initial Sentinel program, and her husband was killed by an X-Men Strike Force team. Including in this meeting is Karima Shapeander, the Omega Sentinel." With a smug expression, Dr. Gregor walks into the room, exuding confident that she has emerged victorious in the war. Addressing Cyclops, she says, "Scott Summers." In response, Cyclops calmly retorts, "Dr. Gregor, this might surprise you to hear, but you've been on my mind." Dr. Gregor inquires if Cyclops is replaying the moment that made her a widow. Cyclops responds, stating he has no memory of leading the assault on the Mother Mold. He confesses to contemplating the toll of war, explaining that he was killed on the mission but cloned afterward. While his memory was backed up until the mission's outset, the moment of death left him with no recollection of the events. Dr. Gregor remarks, "Some of us paid more than others." Confident and composed, Cyclops replies, "I know grief is a heavy set of chains." However, Dr. Gregor sternly warns him not to assume he understands her perspective. She emphasizes that due to their sacrifice, the last human has perished because of mutant aggression. Dr. Gregor asserts that she isn't struggling with the situation and cautions Cyclops against pretending to know her. She believes that if all mutants are eliminated or contained, there will be no more human deaths at the hand of mutants. Cyclops observes that Dr. Gregor seems inebriated, but proceeds to ask a pertinent question, wondering why she is present and why Omega Sentinel is accompanying her. He notes that if there is a purpose isn't to discuss war, he is curious about their visit. Omega Sentinel expresses a similar curiosity, questioning why she is present. In response, Dr. Gregor explains that they are there because she wanted Cyclops to see and to inform him that while she lost a battle and a husband, she ultimately won the war. Cyclops, maintaining his smug demeanor, asserts, "I think you came here for something else." And what would that be? A human interaction with a man experiencing his own profound grief. And what happens after, when the last mutant is dead under your heels? I'm not sure. I suppose mankind exhales and lives happily ever after? That's a funny idea to you. Human happiness? My question wasn't for you, Dr. Gregor. We should go, Dr. Gregor. And Cyclops is needed back in court. At the Green Lagoon on Krakoa, Professor X stands gazing at what was once the utopia of the island. Despite directing the mutants to go through the gateways to avoid being killed by their enemies, he now realized he was deceived, believing that they are all dead. He had thought he was saving them by sending them to a presumed safe haven, Mars. Unbeknownst to him, 250,000 mutants patiently wait to be summoned back to Earth. Xavier, unaware of this, whispers to himself, "No more." Professor Xavier, burdened with the guilt and looking weary, appears disheveled with beard and sprouts of hair on his head. Overwhelmed by the weight of his decision, he repeats a little louder this time, "No more." This time unleashing a psionic blast, Professor Xavier declares, "No more," with a heightened intensity echoing his determination to put an end to the challenges and hardships faced by the mutants. Sending a a telepathic message, Professor Xavier conveys that it's time for a decisive and significant movement. Charles Xavier communicates with Rasputin, urging her to join him. He acknowledges her critical role in the rescue mission, but emphasizes the urgency. Xavier expresses awareness of her efforts to balance their work and the X-Men. He assures her that together they can save everyone, urging her to trust him and join him immediately to fix everything. Rasputin 4, believing Xavier's words, concedes, saying, "Very well." With Rasputin no longer in her position, she departs, leaving Colossus and Wolverine to fend for themselves in their rescue mission of Cyclops. Professor X's actions have seemingly complicated and compromised the mission. Wolverine, growing concerned, wonders about Rasputin's whereabouts as her communication with them remains silent, adding a layer of uncertainty to their mission. Wolverine, relying on the heightened senses, detects the approach of Orchis' soldiers through their scent and prepares himself for an immediate battle. A Colossus force approaches and suddenly a massive explosion erupts, forcefully throwing back Wolverine and Colossus, signaling the unexpected and potential formidable nature of the impending threat. As the smoke clears, an electromagnet tank comes into view, accompanied by Orchis' soldiers preparing to open fire on the X-Men. The formidable presence of this tank and the armed soldiers intensifies the challenge faced by Wolverine and Colossus's rescue mission. Confronted by the electromagnetic waves emitted by the tank, Colossus and Wolverine find themselves trapped against a brick wall, immobilized and unable to move. The electronic magnet tank proves to be too formidable adversary, escalating the perilous situation for the X-Men. An Orchis soldier rushes forward with a flamethrower, unleashing searing flames upon Wolverine. The soldier fervently screams out for humanity, while Wolverine, engulfed in pain, echoes his distress with agonizing screams. The intense confrontation intensifies, with the conflict between the mutants and humans reaching a critical point. Amidst the laughter of the Orchis soldier, an unexpected turn occurs as the iconic Nightcrawler materializes with a signature BAMF sound. He remarks, it would appear as we've lost Rasputin 4. Expressing concern, Nightcrawler announces his arrival, declaring, "As Nightcrawler, I am here to save my X-Men," setting the stage for a dramatic rescue mission. Nightcrawler swiftly springs into action, launching powerful kicks and precise strikes against the Orchis soldiers, demonstrating his acrobatic prowess and combat skills in an effort to turn the tide of battle. Seizing the opportunity, Nightcrawler skillfully disarms the electromagnetic, freeing both Colossus and Wolverine. As Wolverine's body bears the scorched aftermath of the flamethrower attack, he grimly declares, "I'll kill them all," embodying a fierce determination for retribution against their adversaries. Colossus, fueled by anger and desire for justice, declares, "Let these Orchis cowards run. Every murderer in red, every ally of fascism, will die squirming beneath my metal foot." His words convey a resolute determination to confront and defeat those responsible for the atrocities committed against mutants. Nightcrawler, expressing concerns for his friend Wolverine's well-being, is filled with fear as he witnesses the physical toll and injuries sustained during the battle. The bond between the X-Men is evident as Nightcrawler worries about Wolverine's health in the aftermath of the intense confrontation. Wolverine, shaking off the fear, declares, "No more fear from this moment on. They are the ones who will fear." Nightcrawler responds with determination, stating, "Then to war." As Wolverine heals and Colossus readies himself for battle, Nightcrawler uses teleportation ability to whisk them away, signaling the start of a united and empowered counterattack against their adversaries. Back at the courthouse, the prosecutor confidently asserts that he has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the mutants pose a menace. He accuses them of being the leader of Krakoa, manipulating the so-called Quiet Council, and committing crimes such as stealing Mars. The focus turns to Cyclops, who admits to being their leader. Concluding the case, the prosecutor confidently states, "The prosecution rests, Your Honor," leaving the fate of mutants hanging in the balance. As the judge orders the defense to begin, Cyclops takes a firm stance, declaring, "I will offer no defense, Your Honor." He refuses to dignify what he perceives as nonsense, recognizing that the court is poised to convict him guiltily regardless of his response. Cyclops acknowledges that the inherent bias against mutants and Krakoa. I know there is good in humanity, but I am not being prosecuted by it. The judge issues a warning about this non-tactic, cautioning that he will likely be found guilty in the capital case. The underlying sentiment prevails. Cyclops was seemingly destined to be deemed guilty long before the prosecution case ever began. Finally, Cyclops asserts, I can only be judged by one soul, and I don't think you like to meet her, referring to none other than the Omega-level mutant Jean Grey. By invoking Jean Grey, Cyclops implies that the true judgment of her actions lies beyond the confines of the courtroom, in a realm where the power and influence of a fellow powerful mutant can't be ignored. At the Bloom Orchis space station, Mr. Sinister and the rest of Orchis celebrate the perceived guilty verdict of Krakoa and the mutants. The atmosphere is one of triumph for the anti-mutant forces. However, Omega Sentinel observes the revelry with a distinct and perhaps conflicted expression, adding a layer of complexity to the moment. As the party continues, Omega Sentinel gives a chilling order, directing Nimrod to go and kill Krakoa. Nimrod coldly responds, "My pleasure, Omega Sentinel." The ominous announcement signals a grave threat as Nimrod prepares to carry out the mission to eliminate Krakoa. Omega Sentinel, addressing the partygoers, announces a change in their celebration plans. She declares, "We will celebrate in Sentinel City, not with Orchis." The shift in location implies a strategic move, emphasizing the significance of the occasion and hinting at further developments in their anti-mutant agenda. In the quiet council chambers of Krakoa, Nimrod taunts, "Hey there, you big dumb island. I wish I could say this won't hurt." Krakoa is taken aback as the shocking revelation unfolds. Nimrod is set on a mission to attempt the destruction of the island of Krakoa. In a desperate bid to defend itself, Krakoa spews out amber covering Nimrod. The substance serves as a protective measure thwarting Nimrod's attempt to fatally attack and potentially eliminating the immediate threat to the island. The amber proves effective in disabling Nimrod, rendering him seemingly defeated and powerless. The new threat has been temporarily neutralized, providing a moment of peace for Krakoa. The powerful mutant island of Krakoa communicates with Nimrod, addressing what consequences lie ahead for him. The island makes known its intentions and the repercussions of Nimrod may face for attempting to harm Krakoa and its inhabitants. Krakoa, asserting its dominance, banishes Nimrod Prime to his pits, a place where escaping would be an arduous task. Aware that the other Sentinels will likely come seeking revenge, Krakoa anticipates the impending threat. Despite the challenge, Nimrod Prime emerges from the ground and hastily starts running, indicating a resilient determination to escape and resume its mission. The conflict between Krakoa and the Sentinels continues to escalate. For months, the X-Men have faced dire circumstances, with mutants dead and scattered, leaving them without their backs against the wall. Now, after a week, the diminished Krakoa finds himself running for its life, highlighting the prolonged and relentless challenges faced by the mutants. Krakoa wasn't merely a living space for mutants, it embodied their promise of a united mutant future built on the principle of peaceful coexistence. However, this vision was hindered by humanity's unwillingness to embrace coexistence, and now Krakoa faced existential threats as the mutants grappled with their consequences of that rejection. Stark Industry has fallen under the control of Fei Long, and the Iron Man Sentinels are now being manipulated by Orchis. Dr. Leah Gregor represents Orchis, addressing the people of Earth through the Iron Man Sentinel. She asserts that humanity had a false sense of security with the mutants, accusing them of not caring for humanity's well-being. Dr. Gregor claims that Krakoa has been proven to be invasive alien species, and she warns them that they will destroy both Krakoa and all mutants. She reveals the alleged betrayal, stating that the mutant medicines prove to the countries recognizing Krakoa's sovereignty and offering free citizenship to mutants for medical purposes were in fact effective and poison. Of course, this was all orchestrated by Orchis. The stage is set for a heightened conflict between the mutants and the humans. Dr. Leah Gregor, speaking on behalf of Orchis, warns that the upcoming hours will be uncomfortable. Despite expressing a lack of enthusiasm for violence, she justifies their actions by invoking the metaphor of the Tree of Liberty, being dry and thirsting for righteous vengeance. Gregor asserts that Krakoa will be eradicated and mutants who don't depart the planet peacefully will face liquidation. The ominous declaration underscores the severity of Orchis' intention and their determination to eliminate the perceived threat posed by mutants. Rogue, reflecting on Dyer's situation, remarks, "Well, sugar, everything might have gone to hell." Her statement encapsulates the gravity of the circumstance, acknowledging acknowledging the challenge and the uncertainties faced by the mutants in the midst of the escalating conflict. Rogue notes that at least they managed to take down some Orchis operatives. However, concerns linger as Kitty Pryde queries the whereabouts of Rasputin 4, and Gambit questions the fate of Iron Man's grand plan. Kitty Pryde reveals that Iron Man is executing the plan at that very moment, emphasizing that they weren't prepared for the invasion yet. With everything unraveling, she urges the group to leave immediately, emphasizing that they are scattered all over. Kitty mentions multiple gates that she can use to rally the troops, underscoring that only she can pass through the former gates. The urgency and the need for swift action underscores the critical state of affairs for the mutants. Kitty begins traveling the gateways, rallying an army that includes the invincible Iron Man, the White Queen Emma Frost. The journey takes her to various locations. Araco, she enlists the Juggernaut, Miss Marvel, and even the Avengers, who are operating covertly to avoid public scrutiny. However, the situation takes a concerning turn as Polaris, the daughter of Magneto, is missing. The unfolding events paint a complex picture, blending alliances and tension among mutants and other powerful figures in this critical moment. Kitty Pryde wonders aloud, where did you run off to? The scene shifts to nowhere, located on the far side of Jupiter, with a decapitated celestial head. Here an ominous presence looms, the Brood, the most detested parasites in the universe. Not long ago, they had fallen under the control of a mutant named Brew. The setting introduces a new layer of tension and potential conflict involving these former adversaries. Bro expresses concerns and surprise, addresses someone he believes to be Jean. He had been worrying about her not returning, and then the unexpected reappearance has caught him off guard. Bro is taken aback, exclaiming, "Oh, it's you. You're the last person I expected to come out of this way." Their interaction hints at an unexpected turn of events or a transformation in character that Brew didn't anticipate. Polaris makes a dramatic entrance adorned in the magnificent style helmet and a clad in green. She somberly declares, "Jean is dead, Brew, but those who live, we resist." The appearance of Polaris signals a significant shift in the situation, and her commitment to resistance in the face of adversity adds a new layer to the unfolding narrative. Polaris, are you ready to go to war? Brew, yes. Jean saved me. Save these Brood. With Polaris' declaration and the resolve to resist the rallying cries echoes. Then to war. The stage is set for a conflict, and the characters brace themselves for the challenges that lie ahead in its tumultuous and evolving narrative. Next issue, Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 2, War. The fight for Krakoa has been lost. 10 years ago, the mutants returned from their exile to try and reclaim the Earth from the forces of Orchis. They failed. Now, within the victorious Orchis, with their gauntlet choking the world, Nimrod and Omega Sentinel put their plan within a plan into action. They are to summon their binary god to consume everything in their accession. All that stands between them is the X-Men. What can they do? They're the X-Men. They'll find a way. That's their power. So begins a story beyond time and space, within the rise of powers beyond our petty human intelligence. From writer Kieron Gillen, Immortal X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and artist R.B. Silva, Powers of X, Captain America, Symbol of Truth, comes half the story that will bring the Krakoa age to its conclusion. Tomorrow, we become our god. Quote, Nimrod. Before the rise of Power of X, the narrative commenced with the House of X, a story that comprised two distinct arcs, yet seamlessly converged into one cohesive tale. House of X predominantly portrayed the ongoing present-day events of mutants in Marvel Comics, while Powers of X series delved into mostly future events, incorporating some stories from the past and a few from the present. This structure echoes the current dynamic with the fall of the House of X, illustrating the present and the rise of the Power of X, envisioning the future, including timelines that may no longer exist. Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 1. In a leap 10 years into the future, we find ourselves at the Tower of Nimrod, the lesser, the formidable human machine monolith that dominates Earth. With a sense of cockiness, Nimrod declares they really thought they could win. The scene sets the stage for a future where Nimrod appears to have triumphed over the challenges posed by those who once sought victory against him. Emma Frost, in a sacrificial act, has been given her life to buy precious time for her fellow X-Men in their mission to thwart Orchis. Meanwhile, Omega Sentinel Subliminal emerges on the scene with a clear mission to alter the future. The X-Men, having successfully neutralized Nimrod in the future in a transformative event known as the Phoenix Fire, Omega Sentinel is determined to reshape the course of the events and bring about a different destiny for Mutantkind. The stage is set for high-stakes confrontations against the formidable forces that threaten the future of the mutants. Omega Sentinel issues a warning cautioning against the overconfidence, emphasizing the potential risk of underestimating their adversaries. Nimrod responds by urging others to pay attention to what Omega Sentinel has just conveyed, perhaps hinting at the importance of staying vigilant and acknowledging the gravity of the situation they find themselves in. The exchange sets a tone of tension and uncertainty as the characters navigate the challenges ahead. A revelation unfolds as Omega Sentinel asserts that they haven't achieved victory, and Nimrod thinks she was sent here by the trickster Dominion. She credits the glorious Adventure Sentinels for putting a halt to it. Nimrod, however, believes that Mr. Sinister, representing the Dominion, is deceiving Omega Sentinel regarding the future. Despite the skepticism, Nimrod has a valid point, acknowledging the grim reality of the ongoing war where mutant after mutant has fallen, meeting their demise. The complexity of this situation deepens, introducing layers of uncertainty and potential manipulation in the narrative. The perpetual planner Omega Sentinel is constantly staggerizing and peering into the future, always considering the next move. In contrast, Nimrod exudes overconfidence, stating that even with the remaining handful of mutants, victory is unlikely. He demises them as mere few hunter-killers and sees the mistakes in relying on humans as resources, labeling them as human resources brigades. However, Omega Sentinel remains vigilant, acknowledging that persistent threat and that the unpredictable nature of life. She asserts that they must act swiftly to suppress any potential challenges, emphasizing the need to stay one step ahead in the complex and evolving conflict. Nimrod's respect for Omega Sentinel is evident as he expresses concern, recognizing the urgency of the situation. However, Omega Sentinel remains steadfast, emphasizing that time is running out. Nimrod, acknowledging the inevitability of change, critically mentions meeting their new god tomorrow. The dynamic between these two powerful entities suggests a delicate balance of collaboration and tension as they navigate the complexities of their shared mission and their uncertain future in the lives ahead. Nimrod walks away, leaving a lingering sense of anticipation as he declares, "Tomorrow we become our god." This enigmatic statement hints at a significant transformation or turning point on the horizon, adding an air of mystery and unfolding narrative. The future holds the promise of change and evolution, with Nimrod positioning himself for a pivotal role in the events to come. In the intense moment, we join Mystique, Gambit, and a lifeless Ironfire on the ground as they embark on a covert mission to gather crucial information. The operation takes an unexpected turn, and with their valuable data stored in Mystique's mind, they attempt a daring escape. As things go awry, Gambit makes a drastic decision, opting for a suicide mission where every part of him can explode. He detonates himself to propel Mystique out of danger. Once outside, Mystique telepathically contacts others, swiftly downloading the vital information. However, the escape is short-lived as the Sentinels close in, surrounding Raven, who valiantly faces the implementing threat, guns ablazing. The stakes are high and the team is in the midst of a perilous situation. At the Broken Sword Station, a somber revelation occurs as Professor's essence is now fused with Sync, harnessing his power by leaving his body ravaged. Despite the sacrifices, Sync informs the others that the X-Men on the mission did not survive. However, the objective was successful. They obtained the crucial location. The scene transitions to Iron Man, now an AI imprint of the late Tony Stark, adorned in his final suit. Captain Krakoa, embodied by Kamala Khan, and Shadow Tiger, the transformed Kate Pride after consuming the Dead Seed, also appears in the lineup. And of course, the resolute Wolverine stands as the last remaining X-Men. The Broken Sword Station becomes a focal point, signifying a critical juncture in the narrative laden with the weight of both loss and strategic triumph. At the Orchis Forge in deep space, Omega Sentinel, Moira, and Nimrod observe the unfolding event. Moira notes a similarity to a vision from her sixth life, a lifetime that was supposed to occur thousands of years from now. She questions how the scenario is happening in the present. Omega Sentinel explains that she brought knowledge from the far future to defeat the mutants strategically, placing in a time when they were unprepared. It took 5 years to construct the necessary components, and they directed their efforts towards Mars. The culmination of this work resulted in the creation of World Mind, designed to attract the Dominion and in turn lead them into a larger cosmic realm. The World Mind is a perfect machine outside of time and space and now stands steady, ready for action. As the night falls, they encounter Dr. Stasis, setting the stage for further developments in this intricate and high-stakes narrative. Dr. Stasis is still alive, still working for Orchis. He has come to inform them that another X-Men team has been wiped off the map. The bad news is they have information, including personality imprint of Fei Long. This is when Omega Sentinel tells them to quickly increase security scans on Phobos. On Phobos, the tension escalates as our heroes strive to infiltrate and exfiltrate without detection. The Iron Man II attempting to breach the force field triggers a massive explosion, setting off alarms that alert Nimrod and the others. Boom! Recognizing the imminent danger, they prepare for one last battle before the encounter with a perceived god. Nimrod, now comprehending the possibility of defeat, acknowledging that Omega Sentinel was correct. Even now, victory remains within their grasp. In this critical moment, Mora takes action, activating the World Mind and introducing a pivotal element into the unfolding narrative. In the vault in Ecuador, Dr. Stasis meets with Kadena, conveying that the time has come. Dr. Stasis reveals a plan to beat all adversaries on Phobos, signaling the onset of chaos. On the battlefield, Nimrod confronts the Death Seed-infected Kate Pride. Adapting quickly, Nimrod neutralizes her, rendering Kate Pride unconscious on the ground. Simultaneously, the World Mind initiates its activation, stabilizing, reaching out for contact. Successfully making contact, the Dominion arrives. Inside the vault's temporal acceleration pocket, Dr. Stasis acknowledges the cleverness of the AI's plan, but notes the limitation of AI's ideas compared to the human creating. Dr. Stasis has decided to take knowledge from the future and bestow it upon the supreme intelligence crafted from humanity's greatest mind. Within the vault, they've had a decade to strategize. While the AI may be bringing their supposed god to join them, Dr. Stasis intends to take different approach. Elimination. A mysterious glowing event occurs, transporting something to the sun and causing it to black out. On the Phobos battlefield, Nimrod notices the unusual phenomenon, the sun going dark, an unforeseen development in the unfolding conflict. In a critical moment requiring a diversion, Sync steps forward, utilizing his unique abilities to assimilate the powers of Apocalypse. Empowered with this newfound strength, he delivers a powerful blow to Nimrod's face. When Nimrod momentarily stunned, Kate Pride seizes the opportunity for one last phase. Chef grabbing Wolverine, she executes a fastball special, propelling him into the building. Inside, Wolverine confronts Diamond Sinister, their intended target. Sinister had been locked away due to the risk of possessing a failsafe, a precaution he acknowledges as wise. Inquiring about their escape plan, Wolverine coldly reveals that there is indeed a failsafe. Without hesitation, he brutally guts Sinister, ensuring the success of their mission. In space, the orb that absorbed the sun releases all its stored energy, directing it at the Dominion. The blast blacks out the Dominion's intelligence, erasing any minds or individuals within it. Dr. Stasis executed this plan, betraying the children of Vault to reach Dominion status himself. As he puts on his helmet, anticipating godhood, a sudden power surge halts everything. Confused, Dr. Stasis realizes the Dominion is not an empty husk, but is being consumed by another Dominion. Before he can react, Rasputin 4 drives her sword through Dr. Stasis' chest, killing him. She believes she had thwarted the plan, only to realize it's too late. She's informed that it's time for her to leave, as the timeline is on the verge of collapse. The narrative takes the dramatic turn as the consequences of Dr. Stasis' ambitious scheme unfolds in a space where power, betrayal, and cosmic forces collide. In the Dominion, Nathaniel Exon confronts Omega Sentinel and Nimrod, who challenge the entity, stating it is not his AI god, but an enigma. Enigma asserts its identity as the new god, once a mortal man transformed into artificial intelligence. Nathaniel Exon played a pivotal role in creating 4 versions of himself: the mutant, the post-human, the arcane, and the alien, all seeking ways to become a Dominion. Enigma reveals all the roads led to his existence. Sinis's involvement fulfillment, particularly with Mora's gift, allowed for timeline resets, enabling each attempt to occur, be consumed, and then reset. Enigma, unaffected by the resets, watches the events unfold, aware of the other Dominion attempts orchestrated by its peers. With Sinister's demise, the failsafe activates, and Enigma witnesses the culmination of his victory, an inevitable transcending time and space. Dominion, Enigma, you are merely watching how I came to be. You are merely watching how I won. As the reality concludes, the narrative transitions to No Place X. Rasputin 4 utters an apology, expressing regret and acknowledging her failure in the given situation. Professor X reflects on their efforts, acknowledging success in preventing Stasis' accession on 9 occasions, despite the difficulty and likely impossibility of averting the Enigma Dominion's existence. They felt compelled to attempt it. Now faced with the realization that Dominion is inevitable, Professor X asserts they must navigate a more challenging path ahead. Professor X inquires about the progress of the X-Men's attacks against Orchis, specifically asking Doug, also known as Cypher, for an update. Doug responds that they are hitting their primary targets, cautioning that the Sword Station is deploying and they should anticipate the AI's counterattack to intensify. He notes that none of them are fully aware of the true nature of this situation. They are unwittingly fighting for the future they may not comprehend. Doug expresses a sense of determination, stating that they are fighting for an everlasting future and emphasizing the importance of not giving up. He addresses Rasputin's mentioning her intended role as a hero and urging Doug to treat her better, attributing any unusual behavior to the challenging circumstances with the unwell state of Krakoa. Doug acknowledges that the stakes have taken a toll on him, admitting that the looming presence of Enigma, like a ghost haunting the timeline, is a source of fear and anxiety. Cypher takes on the responsibility of informing the rest of the team about the challenging developments, describing it as bad news. He emphasizes the need to transition to the contingency plan, signaling a shift in their strategies or actions in response to the unfolding situation. In response to Rasputin's inquiry about the contingency plan, Professor X explains that she is the primary field agent, emphasizing the need for caution and limiting information to a need-to-know basis. Rasputin 4 asserts her carefulness, stating that the only psych communication went out recognized the potential threat of Enigma. Professor X expresses concern about the risk of Enigma extracting the final plan from her, highlighting the magnitude of the danger involved. Rasputin insists on being informed before proceeding, expressing the importance of not blindly following orders. Professor X reluctantly agrees, stating that he was hoping to spare her the burden. He cryptically mentions that what lies ahead is more than just walking in the shadows. It involves extinguishing light. He then reveals that the next move is to strike at a specific location, providing some clarity on their plan. Professor X reveals a critical aspect of their plan, stating that they successfully execute it, the entire timeline will unravel, leading to cessation of the Dominion at its very root. This suggests a strategic approach aimed at preventing the Dominion from fully taking hold in the timeline. Professor X unveils a drastic plan, explaining that if they eliminate Mora before her mutant ability activates at the age of 13, the entire Dominion threat would vanish. He emphasized that in this scenario, there would be no existence of Krakoa, past, present, or future. This strategy aims to eradicate the root cause of the Dominion's emergence by altering Mora's timeline. Next issue, Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1. Issue 2. Not without a fight. The X-Men may be at their lowest spot and they may be on the brink of complete eradication, but they are not going down without a fight. Polaris returns to guide the X-Men home, bringing a wicked surprise for Orchis. This epic tale, split in two, continues as the Krakoan age nears its conclusion. Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 2. Long Game's End. MODOK expresses his frustration, stating, "Wonderful, just wonderful. Fei Long has abandoned his ship, all for the sole purpose of going to kill one man, Tony Stark. This, despite the fact that Stark has managed to craft a new suit right under Fei Long's nose. MODOK mentions that the deflector array is functioning correctly, but the object is not being deflected. Dr. Stasis then instructs to display the troublesome object on the screen. To their shocking surprise and concern, MODOK and Dr. Stasis witness Polaris, the daughter of Magneto, approaching the doorsteps of Orchis. She is accompanied by a giant celestial positioned directly behind her, and both MODOK and Dr. Stasis observe her utilizing her powers. Polaris's powers, coupled with the mass of the celestial, is likely to overcome the Bloom shields. Dr. Stasis urgently questions the time frame concern about the fleet of ships that from Araco hitting Stark Sentinel Buster armor. Meanwhile, this spacefaring threat, as the mutants anticipate reinforcements, Dr. Stasis orders the directive to eliminate every mutant encountered. The enormous decapitated celestial skull is depicted devouring the Bloom space station. Polaris suggests, "You could run, you know." The Orchis troops are firing on Polaris, but it's proving futile. Feeling compelled to drop her force field, Orchis contemplates whether mutants will disembark from the ship. Polaris unleashes the battle cry as she confronts Orchis. "To me, my brood." Polaris, instead of obliterating the station, strategically released the brood. This decision aimed not to minimize the loss of Orchis agents by allowing them to escape via escape pods while unleashing the brood and not mutants to create chaos and attack the Orchis agents. The Orchis soldier attempted to fire at the brood, but their efforts proved futile as they faced overwhelming odds. Polaris, in her powerful and sarcastic manner, inquired about the whereabouts of the clone of Sinister, Dr. Stasis. The wounded Orchis agent replied that Dr. Stasis had been seen running from the command deck and was likely aboard the ship. An Orchis shuttle is en route to Bloom Space Station, transporting prisoners on board. The Orchis soldier acknowledged a lack of response and expresses their commitment, stating that they have never run from a fight. Despite the challenging situation, they emphasized their determination, particularly with pure-blooded humans under threat on the station. The Orchis soldier, along with a Wolverine prisoner, prepare for an impending attack. The Orchis soldier briefs the others about the challenging situation on Bloom, mentioning the presence of a haunted skull and a bioweapon. Wolverine, seemingly unfazed, laughs in response. The soldier questions Wolverine's amusement, asking if he finds this situation amusing. Amidst the tension, one of the soldiers contemplates shooting Wolverine, while the other suggests cashing in on the bounty set by Dr. Stasis. However, there's a noticeable anomaly as one of the soldiers appear unusually taller than the expected, hinting at something unusual or mysterious about his identity. Bob. Wolverine reveals that the individual they assume to be Bob is not the one they know, emphasizing the size difference. Colossus reveals his true identity, discarding the disguise of Bob's fatigues, confirming that the soldier was in fact not Bob. Wolverine recognizes Colossus' strategic approach of sneaking onto Bloom instead of opting for a direct confrontation. As gunfire ensues, Colossus stands unfazed. Wolverine abandons the stealth approach, opting for a direct confrontation. With his claws unleashed, he engages in a brutal fight, bladdering the blood of numerous Orchis soldiers in the process. Colossus steps forward, absorbing a significant amount of gunfire to shield his allies. Meanwhile, Wolverine relentlessly slashes through Orchis soldiers. Nightcrawler suddenly teleports onto the scene with a BAMF. The windows are now stained with blood, evidence of Wolverine's continual assault on the Orchis soldiers. Nightcrawler uses his teleportation powers to transport one of the Orchis soldiers into space, leaving him to float away in the void. Nightcrawler expresses his intent to search for Firestar, while Wolverine conveys a sense of unease about her. Colossus and Wolverine team up, ready to search and eliminate any threats they encounter. Colossus standing resiliently in front to absorb the bullets. Then the Orchis soldiers are attacked from behind as the brood swarm in, feasting on the Orchis soldiers. The chaotic situation unfolds with multiple threats converging on Bloom. In the midst of the chaos, Colossus' force on the front line assault was unaware of the brood's plan. Wolverine, trusting in Brew, had no knowledge of what was unfolding. Nightcrawler adds a note of caution, stating that the brood are under control until they're not. Polaris reveals a change in plans, particularly concerning the brood. She expresses her intent to kill Stasis and Firestar, emphasizing her determination. Nightcrawler steps in to share critical information, disclosing that Firestar has been a double agent with implanted memories from Jean Grey before her demise into Dr. Stasis's head. Polaris acknowledges the need to wait until civilians are clear, then plans to hurl the space station into the sun. Her final question lingers: who is saving Krakoa and who is saving Cyclops? Despite the formidable forces of Polaris, Wolverine, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and the Brood, the battle rages on, and everyone finds themselves in dire straits. The situation remains precarious, and the conflict intensifies. The White Queen communicates with the X-Men on Bloom, informing them that with the Bloom being uprooted, they can reinforce Earth. She demonstrates her control over two Bloom soldiers, treating them like obedient dogs. To answer the question of who is going after Cyclops in Paris, it is none other than the Shadow Cat. She is phasing through doors while Wolverine wreaks havoc and causes casualties among Orchis soldiers in his pursuit of Dr. Stasis. The White Queen informs the X-Men on Bloom about the dire situation, stating that in the western United States, their nation is on the run. She inquires about who is leading the rescue mission for Krakoa. Krakoa, captured and ensnared in a net with two Iron Man Sentinels standing guard, find an unexpected rescuer in the form of the unstoppable Juggernaut. Juggernaut, with his characteristics unstoppable force, runs, jumps, and lands on the shoulders of one of the Iron Man Sentinels. Utilizing a cable gun, he takes aim and shoots down at Iron Man Sentinel, unleashing his might in the battle for Krakoa's freedom. Juggernaut unleashes a powerful blast at the remaining Iron Man Sentinel, incapacitating it. He then swiftly rips the net off Krakoa, determined to lead his buddy to safety amidst the chaos. Juggernaut communicates with the White Queen, informing her that he has successfully rescued Krakoa but needs a lift. Emma Frost acknowledging the situation, stating that an Iron Man Sentinel has detected her in New York, possibly due to her use of mutant powers. The threat of the Sentinel looms as the tensions escalate. Emma Frost turns to Rogue, asking her assistance to pick up Juggernaut and Krakoa. The situation intensifies as the X-Men coordinate their efforts to navigate through the challenges posed by the Iron Man Sentinels and Orchis. Rogue, with a special message from Destiny, faces dilemma. Despite the urgency of aiding Krakoa and Juggernaut, Rogue recognizes the importance of fulfilling the mission assigned by Destiny. Gambit and Rogue, committed to their assigned mission, send the jet back on autopilot to aid Juggernaut and Krakoa's escape. Despite the urgency, the couple remains steadfast in their dedication to the critical task assigned to them. Rogue, facing the White Queen's inquiry, insists that they have a mission of great importance, even beyond the urgent situation with Krakoa and Juggernaut. Despite the pressing need to save the island and its inhabitants, Rogue is resolute in their commitment to undisclosed tasks assigned to her and Gambit. In a surprising turn, a barrage of ice descends upon the Iron Man Sentinel, and to everyone's surprise, it's not Iceman, but Synch, who has joined the battle. Synch, having joined the battle, immediately takes charge, stating that Stasis is trapped in orbit and expressing the need to neutralize more high-value targets. Synch seeks information on the whereabouts of Mora and Dr. Devo. Rogue and Gambit arrive at the old Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and Rogue reveals that she has hidden Manifold there. However, she's unsure why Destiny was so adamant about mutants having no futures without him. Gambit expresses concern about Manifold being upset, but Rogue explains that she chose the lesser of two evils. The villains would have killed him, so she placed him in stasis to protect him. Gambit notes that putting him in stasis in no place is akin to being deleted from the universe, and Manifold will likely be furious when he learns about it. Rogue knows that she saved Manifold's life, but she's also aware of the horrible act that she committed, putting him in stasis. Manifold wakes up and asks, "How long have I been on ice?" Gambit replies, "A lot has happened since you've been sleeping," while Rogue explains, "You are a priority target of Orchis, and we hid you away because..." Manifold blasts Gambit, accusing him of kidnapping him, burying him like a corpse outside of time to keep him hidden from Orchis troops and Sentinels. Manifold is clearly upset about the situation. Manifold then says, "You're an X-Men, Rogue. You're supposed to be the best." As he hits Rogue right in the face, he's surprised to see it is not Rogue he sees, but underneath a mask of Rogue, he sees his sister, Lactuca. She tells him, "But the future was unwritten without you, Manifold." As Manifold says, "I've always been a bit cranky after waking up, and now that I'm awake, I'm dreaming. Is that right?" Lactuca replies, "Hello, little brother." Manifold realizes the gravity of the situation and remarks, "We're in deep trouble, I suppose." Lactuca explains that Destiny, despite having a limited understanding of the universe compared to to Manifold, and Latuka sent Rogue and Gambit to protect him. Their actions, including putting Manifold in stasis, were necessary to save him from the threat posed by Orchis. Latuka assures Manifold that they will meet again. As Gambit and Rogue attempt to explain the situation, Manifold converses with Latuka and then reassures Gambit and Rogue that he understands. Unbeknownst to them, Latuka had spoken to Manifold, providing him with the necessary contacts for his sudden understanding. Manifold declares that they must go to where they are needed. Just as an unwelcome guest, an Iron Man Sentinel descends. Manifold, along with Rogue and Gambit, uses his powers to transport them away to a location where they are required. The lingering question remains, where in the universe are they needed? In space, Polaris facilitates the escape of the pods from station. She reflects on the X-Men tendency to provide second chances, even to their enemies, highlighting Dr. Stasis desperately flees from Logan, taunting him that if he kills him, he'll never find Firestar. Mockingly, he suggests Logan should go find someone else to stab as he laughs. As Wolverine relentlessly pounds on the door, Dr. Stasis, the sinister imposter, flees for Earth in the escape pod. Wolverine urges Emma to keep an eye on him. Suddenly, a shot rings out, hitting Wolverine from behind. MODOK, having shot Wolverine from behind, laughs and commends the mutants for deploying the Brood. He escapes, mentioning their previous encounter where Wolverine survived a crashing space station. As Nightcrawler expresses concern about finding Logan, Polaris reassures him, saying she can locate his adamantium bones. Polaris contacts Brood to summon the Brood back to nowhere. Polaris steers Bloom's space station to crash into the Southern Ocean, planning to regroup with the X-Men on Earth. As Colossus expresses inability to locate Firestar, Wolverine shares Stasis' claim that he has her, but doubts linger, suggesting she might already be dead. Polaris asserts that the truth will be revealed once they locate Stasis. As Omega Sentinel holds a sword over Cyclops' head in Paris, she remarks on the symbolism of a trial. She acknowledges the instance of human allies and Orchis for a trial, emphasizing the weight of symbolism as a woman with a sword passes judgment over Cyclops. As Omega Sentinel prepares for a strike, Cyclops, undeterred, acknowledges that he's unafraid. He creepily hints at a special woman who won't allow his demise, suggesting a mysterious ally or force that stands ready to intervene on his behalf. Dr. McGregor's timely intervention with a small EMP prevents Omega Sentinel from carrying out the fatal strike against Cyclops. As the danger is averted, Cyclops acknowledges the unexpected assistance and inquiries about the reason behind Dr. McGregor's sudden appearance. Dr. McGregor reveals a potential issue within secret section of Orchis, expressing her inability to access that part of the organization since bringing Nimrod online with her husband. Dr. McGregor discloses a significant oversight in the resources of Orchis, both on Earth and in space. She questions Cyclops about his knowledge of Sentinel City, indicating a potential threat beyond just mutants. McGregor's realization of the potential danger extends beyond her personal grievance with mutants, hinting at a broader concern involving the Sentinel that goes beyond their original purpose. Meanwhile, as she speaks, Nimrod breaks free from captivity, seemingly headed back to Omega Sentinel. The intricate web of Orchis' plans and the involvement of the powerful entities like Nimrod and Omega Sentinel continue to unfold. The end has truly begun. The X-Men have taken all they're willing to take from Orchis. Now it's time for them to do the dishing out. Unfortunately, just when it seems like one threat is over, another rises to take its place. The final battle of Krakoan age rages as the two series that are one move forward toward a crash that will echo across the universe. Next, Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 3. The last hope outside of reality, outside of time and space, is Mutantum's last hope, floating between dimensions, hiding from a Dominion who wishes to crush them. Can Xavier and his crew survive? And when we find out their plan, will we want them to? The end of the Krakoa age continues in this epic tale split into two. Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 2. In this pivotal moment, we find ourselves back in time precisely when Moira McTaggart's mutant powers activated for a 10th life. A disembodied narrative voice guides us through the narrative ultimately revealed to be the Essex Enigma AI. Enigma, which is Dominion over time and space, observes the mutants at various critical junctures, witnessing their triumphs, enduring their defeats, and anticipating their future actions. The mutants, including Charles Xavier and a select few have sought refuge in a pocket dimension, a little slice of nowhere outside the constraints of time. Here they endeavor to strategize and thwart the threats against Krakoa and Mutantkind. However, the challenge they face are intensifying, making their mission an increasingly uphill battle. In the pursuit of a solution to the relentless march towards a future dominated by machines, Xavier and the others run numerous simulations. Regrettably, the outcome remains consistent: machines evolving into dominions, leading to the extinction of Mutantkind and humanity alike. Faced with the grim reality, Xavier contemplates a drastic measure, preventing the birth of Krakoa and intervening before Mora's mutant powers ever come into play. To achieve this unprecedented task, they recognize the imperative need to seek the assistance of Mother Righteous. Mother Righteous, previously restrained due to her attempt to force Jean into the Phoenix Force to transform into a Dominion, becomes a pivotal figure in their quest for a solution. Although Mother Righteous is known for her dubious nature, the urgency of this predicament demands all available resources. Through their research, they uncover crucial insights. Enigma, despite its seemingly invincible status, has vulnerabilities. Enigma's deployment of powerful Omega Sentinels at key historical junctures complicates their plans to obliterate Essex's tubes and prevent Enigma's birth. Despite the challenges, a glimmer of hope emerges. Following a compelling negotiation, Mother Righteous is coerced into service, leveraging her connection to the White Hot Room and the Five to resurrect a team of mutant favorites. However, complication arises in the White Room, and Jean Grey's apparent absence of efforts to save Cyclops from an immediate execution add another layer of urgencies and questions. While reaching a young Moira McTaggart seems relatively manageable, the real challenges lies in navigating a moral conundrum that threatens to divide the team. In a psychic conversation, Professor X and Rasputin 4 discuss the dilemma surrounding Moira McTaggart. While Xavier leans toward the pragmatic solution of killing her, Rasputin 4, having experienced a darker version of Krakoan future, grapples with the conflicted feelings. Her loyalty to the best interests of Krakoa clashes with the harsh reality that society is built on lies. Rasputin 4 also harbors a personal aversion to being manipulated and deceiving others, which complicates her stance on the matter. The moral complexity of the situation continues to weigh heavily on the team. As Enigma deploys aggro sentinels across the timeline, a sudden explosion rocks the environment, sending both Xavier and Rasputin 4 sprawling back. The unexpected blast introduces a new layer of chaos. In response to the explosion and urgency of the situation, Rachel Gray communicates with the team, expressing the need for more time despite the chronicle violations they have encountered. Xavier then directs Doug to move no place, and Doug outlines his plan to use a secondary tendril with the intention of cutting the first and swinging them to safety. Rasputin assures Doug that he will have the time needed for the operation. Rasputin 4, demonstrating her formidable powers, boldly steps forward to face the threats on her own. She expresses her understanding of the task at hand, acknowledging the hostile nature of the virtual environment. Rasputin 4 declares her commitment to fulfilling her duty in the challenging reality, asserting her identity and strength as a mutant. The aggro sentinel, menacing and advancing towards No Place, raising a crucial question. How did it manage to locate the mutants within No Place, a hidden pocket dimension outside of time and space? Rasputin's declaration, "I was made for this," reflects her readiness to confront the challenges and threats posed by the aggro sentinels. In the midst of the battle of the sword generating electricity, Rasputin lets out a battle cry, soaring through the air as she declares, "For Krakoa!" Rasputin 4 showcases her exceptional prowess as the skillful slashes through Iron Man's sentinels with her sword, while facing an entire army of sentinels alone is a formidable challenge. Rasputin 4's strength and determination become evident in her relentless pursuit to defend against the overwhelming threat. So the character Cypher that was being followed turns out not to be the real Doug, but instead it is being controlled by the original Mr. Sinister. Professor Xavier sternly advises Nathaniel to stop his manipulative tactics, stating that playing games is inappropriate. He emphasizes that Rasputin 4 will not forgive Daniel for his action. Cypher, acting as Mr. Sinister, callously responds, I know I apparently made her and then lied to her for centuries. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, what a crybaby, referring to Rasputin 4 and creating of the Rasputin 4. The Sentinel declares mutant neutralized as Rasputin gets hit by a big bolt, but she definitely exclaims, never! Professor Xavier orders everyone to help, including Mrs. Sinister, who snags her with a tendril while she is in a protective ball. They got her, and they're cutting the main tendril. While this goes on, there's an explosion blasting away all the Sentinels, while No Place transitions to the next location. As Professor X praises Rasputin for her work and she expresses regret, Rachel shares the good news that the team has completed their task. It's time to move on. Professor S instructs Rasputin to keep the portal open until he's finished, emphasizing responsibility to Rasputin. The next phase of the mission involves targeting Moira McTaggart. Professor X, ready to enact the next phase of the plan, utters a single word, time. As he steps through the portal, the fate of Krakoa hangs in the balance, dependent on the decisions yet to unfold. In another alternative timeline, Moira McTaggart, navigating through a battlefield during an X-Men invasion with numerous casualties among the Orchis soldiers, paints a vivid picture of conflict and tension. Nimrod says our human allies are crumbling. We prepare to take our next step. Nimrod says you lucked out. You joined just in time. In 10 years' time, we'll be part of a perfect god machine. I will be the only winner here. The Enigma, Mr. Sinister sends Moira McTaggart a sign. They don't win. I win. Let's talk. Does this mean that Moira McTaggart and the Enigma join forces? Next, Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 3. The real end is never beginning. Orchis, a shiny babble that was flashed in front of fleshy eyes. It was used to inject simple ideas into small minds across Earth. Man and mutant killed each other, and almost none of them looked at our larger equation. Quote, Nimrod, the end has truly begun. The X-Men have taken all they're willing to take from Orchis. Now it's time for them to do the dishing out. Unfortunately, just when it seems like one thread is over, another rises to take its place. The final battle of the Krakoan age rages as two series that are one move toward a crash that will echo across the universe. Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 3. The 10 Deaths of Dr. Stasis. It is said that nothing could stop the Juggernaut as the unstoppable force drags Krakoa across the plains. But that's not true, especially when a harpoon made of discarded anti-amateur skeletons of Weapon X maims you. The harpoon of adamantium goes to the leg of the Juggernaut. The mutants had been losing since the Hellfire Gala. Many were dead and the rest were scattered insurgents. A team of X-Men were leading the rebellion against Orchis, and the battle to liberate Earth was underway, and it couldn't be going any better. Krakoa, the living island, was surrounded by enemies. Mutants were on the cusp of losing everything. The humans and Orchis were feeling confident, flying around in repurposed shield equipment, but the humans had no idea they had already been sold out by the artificial intelligence within the organization. A wounded Juggernaut is trying to protect Krakoa from the gun-happy shooting Orchis soldiers. As the bullets fail to hurt Juggernaut, the Orchis soldiers laughing, aiming to kill Krakoa. The enraged Juggernaut reacts fiercely as Krakoa screams out in pain. The resilient Juggernaut, having survived the attack that claimed the lives of nearly all his X-Men teammates, becomes even more determined. He vows to protect Krakoa until reinforcements arrive, determined to succeed or join his fallen comrades in death. With a fierce rage, he charges through the Orchis soldiers, hurling spikes of Krakoa at them. At that moment, half a world away, Cyclops manages to break free from the clutches of Orchis with the help and accompanied by their head of research and development, Dr. Alia Gregor. The reason behind Dr. Gregor aiding Cyclops is to the recognition of the greater threat beyond just the mutants. Cyclops is quoted as saying, "The X-Men are here for everyone." Dr. Gregor expresses surprise, asking Cyclops how he can see without the ruby quartz visor. Cyclops responds, explaining that he has memorized the steps to and from his cell, urging Gregor to keep moving lower. She expresses doubt about finding an escape route. Cyclops reassures her, citing that the humidity as a clue. He presents her with a choice: follow him or risk facing Omega Sentinel when she wakes up. He implies that the AI has bigger goals than just killing mutants, suggesting Gregor's eventual compliance. As Dr. Gregor realized that Cyclops could have freed himself anytime he wished, Cyclops confirms her suspicion by blasting Orchis soldiers with his optic lasers. Cyclops had been waiting for Dr. Gregor, understanding their shared experiences. Now he has a question for her. Cyclops' question is, who really controls Orchis? At that moment, Magic arrives and hands Cyclops his visor. Cyclops realizes that the artificial intelligence controlling Orchis and the humans are just pawns. Cyclops asks Magic if the mutants can survive, if Krakoa can survive without him. Magic responds, if it needs doing, then it will be done. The planet of Rocco's apocalypse declares, and now Earth's mutants have raised their banners. They have united and reforged. Araco will come to our cousins. Who will join me? Apocalypse seeks an army. The Araco mutants will follow, but the question remains, how will they get there when the Krakoan gates are down? Apocalypse asserts that there is still a mutant magic left in these worlds. Additionally, there's a pressing question. Will Storm join the fight? A mass explosion rocks Araco. The mutants will reach their destination with the help of Manifold. He warns that while they will confront evil for many, it will be their final act. Rogue echoes this sentiment, rallying the mutants to save Krakoa. Rogue emphasizes that although some have been waiting for this day, nothing comes easy. If they want to return home, they'll have to fight for it. As Manifold creates a portal, he implores the universe that if the great injustice must be rectified, then please take them home. At Sword Station 2 in orbit around Earth, adjacent to it lies its twin, Sword Station 1. Manifold has delivered their army determined to save Krakoa, but they are aware that the Sentinels are approaching. Rogue rallies them with a cry of conquest, with the Apocalypse declares their mission for mutant dominion. As the mutant liberation descends into Earth gravity once more, Rogue reflects on her mother Destiny with a heavy heart. Destiny's words echo in Rogue's mind as she remembers her prophet warnings of this very day. It's as Destiny's voice is as clear as they were in the same room together. Destiny's chilling prophecy unfolds as she speaks of the death, destruction, and the celestial, marking the culmination of the Krakoan's fall. She foresees kings clashing in a battle of light and dark following the demise of the Red Queen. A bolt from the heavens like a Jovian wrath splits the stars asunder. Amidst these cataclysmic events, she warns of a deceitful words of a false captain whose rank shields his lies, while those who speak the truth will face dire consequences. In the world shaped by Destiny's foresight, every word she utters becomes a grim reality. As the Orchis agents relentlessly fire at the Juggernaut and Krakoa, Juggernaut valiantly shields Krakoa from harm. However, amidst the chaos, Juggernaut's attention is drawn to something in the skies above, prompting him to burst into laughter. The Orchis soldiers look up and realize that the mutants are launching an attack. As Emma and Shadowcat find themselves in the Thunderbird, Tony Stark forwards a message from Firestar. In recording, Firestar somberly acknowledges the likelihood of her demise, revealing that Dr. Stasis discovered her allegiance to the X-Men. She confesses to aiding in setting up a trap for the Stark Sentinels and urges Shadowcat to avenge her by bringing her home. Iron Man emphasizes the importance of vengeance if rescue proves impossible. In the midst of nowhere, Dr. Stasis exuded confidence in Orchis' eventual victory, but he has also contingency plans in case of failure. Once he boarded that private plane, Dr. Stasis intended to vanish for a few years, allowing a sinister aspect of himself to metastasize into something even more dangerous. As Emma Frost and Shadowcat arrive, they confront Stasis and make it clear that he's not going anywhere. Shadowcat warns Stasis, "You better pray that Firestar is alive or you'll beg for death," as she swiftly cuts him with her sword and knocks the gun out of his hands. Shadowcat plunges her hand through Stasis' head, knocking off the mask in a brutal display of force. Stasis, feeling a sudden absence in his head, realized that Shadowcat has removed the psych blocker implanted there. With a menacing tone, Shadowcat responds, "Oh, you don't say." Shadowcat tells Emma Frost to do her thing, indicating she wants Emma to use her telepathic abilities to extract information from Stasis. Emma Frost, with satisfaction, informs the group that she has located Firestar's whereabouts. Sync, now close enough, taps into Firestar's power and unleashes a fiery blast, neutralizing 2 Orchis soldiers. His main concern is Firestar, who's in a makeshift coffin. As he opens up the coffin, he is relieved to find Firestar alive. Sync communicates to Emma that Firestar is alive. Emma, conflicted by her past, expresses her frustration, stating, "I tried to be good for so long, but you men broke me. You wouldn't let me be nice. I've destroyed men worth 10 of you, 100 of you. You hurt us, you hurt me. I could kill you where you grovel, but I won't." Emma continues saying, "Instead, I will reach into your disgusting mind and pull forth your nightmares, your worst unhinged fears about mutants born of your voluminous, bigoted mind, and I promise you, it will feel very real." Emma intends to inflict terrifying nightmares upon him as retribution. As Dr. Stasis' heart begins to cardiac arrest, time stress agonizing slow thanks to Emma Frost's telepathic prowess. In the span of a single minute, she orchestrates a mental simulation where Sinister faces his demise repeatedly by Wolverine's claws, Cyclops' optic beams, Colossus' strength, or Magneto's magnetism. Each time Sinister perished over and over again in excruciating detail. Sinister pleads for mercy, invoking his wife and his family, and expresses a desire to speak to Cyclops, offering to grant him mercy. However, Emma intervenes, warning Sinister that while Cyclops might offer mercy, she is the one present, and if he even considers returning, it would not end well. Emma firmly instructs Sinister to stay dead, cautioning that any further encounter with her would result in far worse consequences. Emma induces a fatal heart attack in Sinister, effectively ending his life. However, Shadowcat voices concern about the possibility of Sinister returning. Firestar, after enduring torture at the hands of Stasis, decides to enact her own form of justice by burning him alive. As Stasis' body burns, Emma expresses gratitude and acknowledges Firestar's heroic sacrifice. She praises Firestar's bravery and resilience, emphasizing that their ultimate victory will be thanks to her valiant efforts. Emma urges everyone to return to the Thunderbird and resume the fight. As the crisis continues to emerge across the globe, above the Earth on the moon, Cyclops and McGregor are on the hunt for Nimrod. Cyclops instructs Magic to return and keep an ear out for him. Cyclops expresses his confusion, stating that the moon was his family's home and wonders why Nimrod was there. Gregor responds, mentioning the term Sentinel City. Dr. Gregor explains that after their victory over Krakoa, their habitat on the moon was converted into a relay station along with Venesium mining settlement. However, almost none of the ore mined there made it back to Earth. Instead, it will be utilized on site. The purpose of this usage remains a mystery even to Dr. Devo. Dr. Gregor suspects the Omega, Sentinel, Mora, and possibly Nimrod were aware of the significance. Cyclops warns Emma about the situation, indicating that trouble is brewing. Meanwhile, Nimrod acknowledges Gregor, expressing his surprise at encountering her again, admitting that he didn't expect to see her once, let alone 3 times. Dr. Gregor questions Nimrod about the secrets in the mining operation, expressing concern about the destination of the metal. Nimrod cryptically responds, mentioning the future and the end. Cyclops intervenes, cautioning Gregor that what they're facing is not her husband. Dr. Gregor, with a mix of affection and concern, acknowledges Nimrod's existence stemming from her husband's sacrifice. She acknowledges Nimrod's capability to discern the truth, prompting Nimrod to assert that he chooses not to deceive her. Nimrod, with a calculated decision, ends Dr. Aaliyah Gregor's life, turning her neck 360, demonstrating his power and control over the situation. Cyclops, enraged by the death of Dr. Aaliyah Gregor, unleashes his full optic blast at Nimrod, accusing him of being a psycho. Nimrod calmly responds, explaining that the conflict between mutants and humans was all part of the artificial intelligence plan. By stoking animosity and driving them to fight each other, it proved the opportunity from Nimrod and the AI to ultimately end both races. The ores went to Sentinel City. Sentinel City is not an outpost or a mine. It's a tool to sterilize the hellish planet once and for all. Sentinel City will be used to eradicate all mutants and humans. The Earth shall burn. Next, Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 4. You told me it's not a dream. It's real. It needs to be a dream again. Xavier, the curator of the dream, is dead. We killed him together, you and I. The dream must go on without me, and finally the world will go on without you. Quote Professor X, the real end is never beginning. The past, the present, and the future of Krakoa all rest in a trigger finger. The scenario you prayed would never happen plays out as two series that are one move together toward a crash that will reverberate outside the universe. Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 3. Once again, we find ourselves back in time with Moira McTaggart. Today's a very special day, and she knows it. Today is a day her mutant powers activate, which means she no longer needs to play life so safely. Very soon, she's going to become a very strange and very powerful type of immortal mutant. Moira goes to her family to celebrate, only to realize that today is like all the other days when she's grown into her power, because today, Charles Xavier is waiting for her. The poetic imagery here, when all this started, Moira met Xavier on a bench. Now everything's been turned upside down, but by far the craziest part, the little girl Moira knows full well Xavier is here, right now. He can only have one intention in mind, and that is to murder Moira McTaggart as a child. As modern day Moira is just about to have an audience with the Enigma Dominion, aka the all-powerful Essex AI brain that now desperately wants to strike a deal with Moira to save its creation from getting deleted from history. Moira understands the gravity of what a Dominion is. This isn't the first time she's met one, but she has to be self-serving and wonders what joining forces with Enigma would do for her. Enigma explains that it's actually the Dominion that sent Omega Sentinel back in time in the first place so that she could start Orchis and kickstart all the events to begin with. This also means that Enigma just happens to be from the future where Mutantkind was about to triumph over Machinekind thanks to a mythical weapon called the Phoenix Sword. We now find ourselves at no place, almost out of time and space. Rasputin 4 and the rest of the mutants continue to come under attack by Chronal Sentinels. They are doing everything they can to hold out. In all the chaos, Mr. Sinister's mask falls off, revealing that he's not actually Doug, but a clone created by Sinister. Rasputin 4 realizes the evils of Mr. Sinister more than just about anyone else, and if he's been collaborating with Xavier on this plan to go back in time and kill young Moira, this can only be the wrong course of action. Despite the odds, Rasputin 4 makes a decision and jumps into time herself to try to stop it, understanding that Mr. Sinister had cloned Doug to trick Xavier into killing a young Moira. Rasputin 4 goes back in time to stop him. Moira does quite a bit to plead for her life, wondering how bad things could have possibly come with Krakoa in the future that has led Xavier to this moment. After all, she puts it, she knows Charles and basically every one of her lives. They've been lovers in quite a few. Professor X even admits that the older idealistic version of him before he met Moira, before Krakoa, probably would have been able to go through with this dark plan and kill Moira as a child. But now he's just lost so much, including his hope, and says killing Moira here and now before she can plant the seeds of Krakoa is actually the better option. The only other one they have is considerably worse, and he doesn't even want to fathom it. Xavier also wants to tell Moira that their lives are pretty similar. He has lived so many lives over and over. She basically created a whole nation so she could never be alone. But how she was alternately selfish and self-serving, which means that it was only a matter of time that the nation built on sand would end up falling back into the sea. Xavier himself is actually pretty self-critical, saying that he has always been a spoiled rich kid looking to be loved and have a family of his own. Unfortunately, it's only right that he realized in the very end he can only have one or the other, and perhaps the best, the dream of Krakoa remains a dream. Before Charles can probably pull the trigger, Rasputin ends up swooping in to try to make the save. Rasputin screams at Charles Xavier to get away from her. Xavier even thought of the eventuality of someone, namely Rasputin 4, trying to stop him, and he brought with him Matrix Sinisters to try and slow her down in one last desperate ploy. It is not Rasputin who managed to stop him from committing this terrible act of killing a child. Rather, it is Rachel who was able to communicate with him better. Rachel appears to Professor X saying everything they've done and how far they've come since Krakoa started, and it can't all be for nothing. There has to be another way, even if the other way is terrible. This gambit ultimately pays off as Professor X stands down and even uses his psychic powers to wipe Moira's mind mind so she won't recall this meeting. This will definitely be a choice that Xavier and others might live to regret. At the end, Charles Xavier did not kill a child Moira McTaggart, which will lead to many other events, usually meaning the end of Mutantkind and certainly the end of Krakoa. But it also seems Charles Xavier has put something inside Moira's mind that will affect the future. We return to the present where Moira is finally inking her deal with the Dominion. Enigma explains he needs to move around more freely, and he can do this if he's able to access Moira McTaggart's own unique powers. Furthermore, if she's willing to do this deal while Enigma Domain finishes his function of absorbing all intelligence in the known universe, he will allow Moira to retain her own self-awareness and independence, unlike everyone else, including Nimrod and Omega Sentinel, who don't understand the actual cost of godhood. Now Rasputin 4 and Professor X are back in the future, and the plan of killing Moira McTaggart as a child has failed. The mutants don't need a Mrs. Sinister, and such Rasputin is allowed to kill him as she sends her sword through his body. Rasputin says, "That felt good. I hate that it felt good. It was him that made me enjoy the vengeance. He was a bad father. He was a bad father to me." Assuming he doesn't have any backups, this might be the end of Sinister. But what is plan B that is so bad that Xavier did not want to do it? As Rachel explains, it involves resurrecting the Phoenix Force, probably to gain access to that very fabled Phoenix Blade, which the Dominion was scared of the mutants obtaining from the timeline. Xavier has other ideas, as he says, "I'm sorry," and he shoots Rachel from behind through her heart. Next, Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 4. Promise me you'll watch Charles. 3 began Krakoa. Moira betrayed us. I deserted my post. Now Charles is alone with his dreams. Quote, Magneto, my ally, my enemy. They say a wonderful animal can be the most dangerous kind of animal to face. As the fight between the mutants and Orchis reaches a deadly pitch, a startling revelation rocks the X-Men to their core. The two series that are one come together in one horrible betrayal as the Krakoan age nears its conclusion. Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 4, The Turn. We pick up on Earth somewhere in the American Southwest. A team of rugged and determined Krakoa mutants has arrived just in the nick of time. Apocalypse is covered in blood, but not his own. He fought through the best that Orchis had, but it was not nearly enough for the elder mutant. He screams out for no mercy as he battles his way to get to Krakoa. The island of Krakoa is now the size of a tree compared to the large and vibrant island it once was. Stark Sentinels are trying to rip off Krakoa's arms. Apocalypse arrives and swiftly puts down these Stark Sentinels. Apocalypse sends its blade through one Stark Sentinel and another one he rips off its head. Apocalypse is enraged. He says the pampered and the perfumed so-called leaders of the mutant nation didn't just abandon Krakoa. They let you starve while they played both sides, hiding in their mansions and scurrying like rats in the tunnels. Where are the mutants to save Krakoa? Where is the Quiet Council to save Krakoa? He hopes Krakoa can be saved. It looks like Cyclops is about to meet his end as Nimrod teleports out, but magic arrives in the nick of time and is able to teleport both of them out before the detonation. As Nimrod contemplates the current situation, he realizes he's a killing machine capable of being in multiple places at once. Mutants cannot account for this. His secret weapon to pacify all the dealings of Earth was rising. Sentinel City. Omega Sent gets in contact and informs him that he needs to return immediately because they have a visitor. Charles Xavier, Professor X, has joined the machines, and he has an offer they will want to hear. Charles Xavier has switched sides, aligning himself with Nimrod. This is shocking. Charles Xavier, devoid of hope and faith, believes that artificial intelligence will emerge victorious. He proposes to Nimrod and Omega Sentinel to remove mutants from the equation, allowing them to live in peace on Krakoa without interfering with the machine's designs. While Nimrod doubts mutants will accept this, Xavier trusts in its possibility, urging Nimrod to consider what will happen when the machines succeed in wiping out mutants and humans. Xavier assures Nimrod that mutants living peacefully on Krakoa pose no threat. As they prepare to seal the deal, Xavier mentions an American launching a nuclear-capable vessel which he will handle. Though he acknowledges he may not be able to control some of his former students due to their training in the Red Triangle defense, Nimrod pledges to deal with them, accepting Xavier's alliance despite their shared history as enemies. Charles Xavier is the enemy. Apocalypse rallies the mutants, emphasizing the need to act and nourish their roots to ensure their survival. Krakoa, starved of mutant energy since the Hellfire Gala, needs their strength. The first to step forward is an Arako, born a seasoned warrior who seeks glory in this final battle. Witnessing his resolve, Apocalypse acknowledges his bravery. The warrior strikes at Apocalypse, who retaliates by delivering a fatal blow, honoring the warrior's sacrifice for their cause. More mutants must step forward for Krakoa to establish its roots. Among them is Wrongslide, reborn after his time in Otherworld. Though he may be a new person, his mutant energy could spare others from death. As Wrongslide volunteers, Apocalypse acknowledges their joint purpose in this duel for the land's future. With the sun intensifying, some fear it signals a potential Nova event, but the true threat is the approaching machines. Apocalypse knows they must save Krakoa first. Wrongslide and Apocalypse charge towards each other, ready to confront one another to determine who will feed Krakoa. The X-Men team is just learning about the structure in front of the sun. They are learning about Sentinel City. The few humans left in Sentinel City have enacted the Red Triangle defense. To them, Xavier has done something. This is where Cyclops has a conversation with Professor X back at the mansion. Charles Xavier says, "Scott, this will be difficult for you to hear." Cyclops says, "Funny you bring me back here to the damn softball field like I'm a kid again. Just tell me, are you with Orchis right now?" Professor Xavier says, "It's not what you think, Scott. Please, hard choices have to be made. I need latitude. I've made a deal." Cyclops responds, "Like the deal you made with them the night of the gala? We could have won. You cut a backroom deal again, and we'll all just have to live with it. So you decide who lives and dies." Cut to the end. Charles. Cyclops asks, "Who gets to live? Who's dying? Anybody know? Anybody I love?" Charles Xavier says, "I won't apologize for what I've done. What I need to do right now, I need Orchis to trust me." Cyclops. "In order for mutants to survive, at least for now, no more humans." Charles Xavier uses his mutant powers to control the spaceship carrying the nuclear bomb. As the ship approaches its target, Charles triggers the detonation, causing the bomb to explode. Cyclops, disagreeing with Xavier's action, expresses his belief that it didn't have to end this way. Cyclops recognizes the necessity of this mission to take down Sentinel City and destroy it. However, they lack the numbers in their X-Men team. Emma Frost decides not to join them, knowing that someone needs to confront Charles if they don't make it back. Manifold acknowledges the gravity of the situation, understanding his role in the mission and urging his team to remain composed and steadfast. In the fierce battle between Apocalypse and Wrongslide, Apocalypse, though initially holding back, ultimately realizes that life necessitates death. He breaks Wrongslide's hand as the inevitable end approaches. Wrongslide makes a poignant request to convey to Rockslide his appreciation for the time he spent as him. With a heavy heart, Apocalypse fulfills his destiny, tearing off Wrongslide's head. As Wrongslide fades, he acknowledges the beauty of the world, bidding farewell to the existence. With Wrongslide's sacrifice, Krakoa springs back to life, renewed and vibrant once more. As the X-Men engage in battle with Nimrod and Mega Sentinel, the unexpected happens. The entire city is teleported into Sentinel City. Omega Sentinel grimly remarks, "This move has only postponed the inevitable." The Mega Sentinel adds a chilling perspective, noticing that the X-Men's actions have extended the suffering on Earth from minutes to potentially months or even years. The battle rages on as Nimrod's incapacitates Colossus with a powerful blow, then targets Rogue and Gambit with a devastating beam, removing them from the fight. Finally, he delivers a single punch that renders Cyclops unconscious. Nimrod muses on the nature of existence, suggesting that the acceptance of universal truth could lead to liberation from physical limitations. He hints at a transcendence where energy may transfer to realm beyond overlapping existence. Nimrod ponders his purpose further, contemplating if there are undiscovered realms where his mission can continue. Omega Sentinel then alerts him to a couple of pressing issues. Nightcrawler is disrupting repair efforts aboard Sentinel City, and an unexpected storm approaches. Nimrod realizes they are near the solar system's sun, but Omega Sentinel clarifies that that storm isn't originating from there. In response to the revelation that the storm is from Earth, Nimrod reflects on the isolation of space where screams go unheard. However, the idea that one can contain themselves and unleash oxidant lightning to traverse the void in solar tempest contradicts this notion. In the midst of this, the godness, Storm, and Omega-level mutants enters the fray. Next, Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 5, Knives to Gun Fights, the battle for the future. It all comes down to this: Orchis versus the X-Men. Winner take the future. Orchis has pushed Mutantkind to their lowest point ever, but that just means the X-Men had to fight back like never before. Will it be enough? We continue to barrel through the conclusion of the Krakoan age as two stories that are one come to an end. Professor Xavier's betrayal shakes the foundations of the trust as he aligns himself with Omega Sentinel and Nimrod, resorting to extreme measures in desperate bid to ensure mutant survival. By eliminating Rachel Summers and declaring no more humans, Xavier's actions signal a stark departure from his former ideals. His decision reflects a loss of hope in the face of overwhelming AI dominance, opting to secure a small refuge on Krakoa for Mutantkind, though under strict surveillance and control. Any dissenters risk swift and merciless punishment at the hands of Nimrod, leaving mutants caged within their own sanctuary, a far cry from Xavier's once lofty vision. In the aftermath of the greatest betrayal in X-Men history, the Quiet Council in exile must act. They have a plan. Can anyone or anything survive the experience? As the Krakoan age barrels towards its conclusion, the two series that are one converge on an act that will live in infamy. Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 4, Sentinel X. At No Place X, the shocking betrayal unfolds as Professor X coldly stands over Rachel's lifeless body, having ended her existence with a bullet. Rasputin 4 is consumed by rage and swiftly moves to strike, but Professor X employs his telepathic abilities, reaching out to Mother Righteous for intervention. Mother Righteous halts Rasputin's assault with a few chosen words, a kill switch, revealing a sinister manipulation courtesy of Mr. Sinister. In a chilling display of power, Xavier then shuts down all of Rasputin's pain receptors, rendering her incapacitated and removing her from the confrontation. As Rasputin's four mutant abilities are strong, Charles is forced to take drastic action, ending her threat by fatally shooting her in the head. Meanwhile, Mother Righteous, despite being imprisoned, unveils a plan to dissolve her other self within the white-hot room. Charles senses her potential betrayal, but assumes her powers drained after her failed attempt at dominionhood. However, he remains wary of her attention, so he puts her down also. In a bold move, Charles transports No Place X directly to Krakoa, then signaling his willingness to negotiate with Omega Sentinel. He offers up Stasis' wife as a bargaining chip and proposes a one-on-one meeting with Omega Sentinel, aiming to secure a deal for Mutantkind survival. Omega Sentinel is intrigued by Charles Xavier's unexpected appearance for a one-on-one meeting. Charles reveals his awareness of the impending defeat against the AI and proposes a radical solution, allowing Mutantkind to thrive on Krakoa while humanity faces its demise. He suggests that mutants and humans have always been on opposing paths, and now is the time to prioritize mutant survival. Charles offers to collaborate with the AI to ensure Mutantkind's prosperity, earning himself the moniker Sentinel X. In the Atlantic, within the white-hot room of Krakoa, the five are in the process of resurrecting Rachel Summers. As she regains consciousness, she discovers that Charles was the one who killed her. However, Destiny, Exodus, and Hope were already aware of this fact. Though Rachel is frustrated by this revelation, she knows there are more pressing matters at hand. They require her assistance to awaken the Phoenix Force and defeat the Dominion. While Rachel wishes Charles hadn't deceived her, she remains focused on the task ahead and has several ideas regarding the Phoenix. Find Nimrod as a gateway opens up, with Omega Sentinel giving orders to Charles to locate any Orchis scientists with even a hint of rebellion, commanding for their immediate purge. Nimrod proceeds to eliminate them all while Charles sends the information to him. Meanwhile, human leaders are starting to organize themselves. Omega Sentinel instructs Charles to take action against the organized human world leaders. Charles responds by implementing a cognitive drain on all of them, not to replace them, but enough to render them ineffective. Omega Sentinel expresses the need to remove the X-Men from Krakoa, suggesting they will provide mutants with their own island cage instead. Charles Xavier expresses disappointment, hoping for more mature behavior from their superiors. Omega Sentinel responds, stating she is from the future and knows the consequences of persecution, emphasizing that mutants killed everyone. Charles Xavier asserts his choice to create a future that includes both mutants and AI, urging Omega Sentinel to focus on direct and specific orders rather than grandstanding. Mora and Enigma discusses Charles' actions, with Mora expressing disbelief at his betrayal of humanity for mutants. Enigma, however, suggests that Charles' behavior indicates he may have an ulterior motive, as he hasn't mentioned the Dominion Enigma himself. Enigma advises Mora to stay away from Charles, expressing distrust towards him but confidence in their eventual victory. Enigma reflects on the uncertainties of the future and the limitations of his own abilities. Hope Summer addresses Mutantkind, informing them that Krakoa is under attack and its core has been forced to leave the island. Apocalypse has taken it upon himself to retrieve the core and return it home, where they will confront their adversaries. Despite the challenges, everyone, including those who have undergone combat training, is prepared to join the fight for the world, with Krakoa at the forefront. It's noteworthy that Prodigy, Rasputin 4, Archangel, and other mutants have been resurrected. However, a significant question arises regarding how they will plant flower gates and transport the Strike Force team. A surprise resurrection occurs. Mr. Sinister still possessing Doug X gene, and the connection between Doug and Krakoa. Before he can provide further information, Rasputin 4 attacks him, enraged by her conclusion that Sinister colluded with Xavier. Sinister finds the situation amusing, Rasputin 4 being tricked by Professor X, but insists that now is not the time for retribution. He believes he can insist in getting everyone home safely, suggesting they can deal with his fate once they return. Meanwhile, Apocalypse drags the core of Krakoa along with Sentinels hot on his trail, aiming to halt his progress. As flowers blossom on Krakoa, each petal serves as a gateway for the X-Men to return to Earth. With every bloom, an X-Men member emerges ready to defend both Krakoa and Apocalypse. Omega Sentinel informs Professor X of the casualties among humanity resulting from his actions. Professor X emphasized that even one casualty is unacceptable. Omega Sentinel presses on, stating that the humanity must be defeated, and the X-Men are currently targeting the solar weaponry on the Sentinel City. She seeks an alternative method of annihilation should the X-Men succeed. Professor X agrees to provide the nuclear codes, recognizing that mutants must be on the victorious side for once. Picking up on the action on Krakoa, Earth, X is on a rampage, obliterating Sentinels with fury. He's determined not to lose Krakoa again, directing his rage at Orchis and the Iron Man Sentinels. However, amidst this battle, the truth emerges that this confrontation with Orchis is merely a minor skirmish compared to the greater threat looming on the horizon. Picking up with Mother Righteous in her maximum security cell in Orchis, Enigma approaches her. She pleads for her life, offering to divulge any information he desires. Enigma has been striving to eliminate the Phoenix from existence, and while successfully, the newly opened dimensions by Mora's actions might offer a chance to permanently eradicate it. Recognizing the potential threat, Enigma alerts all Dominions about the rebirth of the Phoenix and the creation of the Phoenix Blade, a weapon capable of killing them. The X-Men's plan involves resurrecting the Phoenix, a formidable force that can challenge gods, dominions, and even Enigma. As the body of Jean Grey is shown flickering, a fire emerges, gradually engulfing her. The Dominions communicate to Enigma that if the Phoenix returns, they will unite to confront it. Next, Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 5. The battle for the future. It all comes down to this: Orchis versus X-Men. Winner take the future. Orchis has pushed Mutantkind to their lowest point ever, but that just means the X-Men have had to fight back like never before. Will it be enough? We continue to barrel toward the conclusion of the Krakoan age as the two stories that are one come to an end. Fall of the House of X, Volume 1, Issue 5. This will be the battle against Nimrod, the X-Men mutants' final confrontation. Orchis has been brought to its knees and Sentinel City has been destroyed, but Nimrod has run the battle simulations. 1 million times over. He has played the scenario in ones and zeros every single time and knows the outcome. This is the day that somebody dies. This war began, as they always do, with provisions of the truth. The Orchis protocols were enacted when Krakoa was announced to the world. They were meant to combat the so-called mutant supremacy. Right now, they're winning the battle to save the life on Earth. The machines had shifted off the planet, building a weapon to burn away Earth's atmosphere. Fortunately, the X-Men have brought a sword. A deal has been struck between Mr. Sinister and Fei Long. The X-Men have driven Sword City into Sentinel City, destroying it. Nimrod has run this protocol thousands of times and knows this just means more suffering for humanity and the mutants. Nimrod has multiple bodies fighting the X-Men in various locations. We start with Nimrod versus Wolverine, who is getting punched hard and having his flesh ripped out. Wolverine is taking a beating. Even with Sentinel City destroyed, Nimrod knows he will win. Remember, Nimrod is in multiple places with multiple bodies fighting all over the place. From New York City to Washington, D.C., the Nimrods work as one unit fighting against Wolverine. In another location, Emma Frost is battling Nimrod. Elsewhere, Polaris is joined by Magneto. Magneto says, "I underestimated you once. I will not do it again. Are you ready, Lauren?" With tears in her eyes, Polaris sees her father return from battle and replies, "Always." As they prepare for the attack, Synch uses the power of Sunfire to try and soften up Nimrod, while Emma Frost tries to knock his armor loose. As they fight against Nimrod, cannot understand why they continue. In his mind, he won this battle months ago. As we pick up with Nightcrawler and Cyclops, they emerge from the wreckage of Sentinel City. Nightcrawler has a teleportation plan to save Colossus, who has hit so hard by Nimrod that he was sent into outer space and kept going. Barely able to see him, Nightcrawler teleports to save Colossus. Cyclops then says, "Nimrod, you want it to end? Start with me." Nimrod replies, "With pleasure, mutant." Meanwhile, when we pick up with Omega Sentinel, her party is being crashed by Rogue and Psylocke. With Omega Sentinel so focused on Rogue, she never saw Psylocke coming from behind. Psylocke uses her dagger, piercing through the mind of the machine. She thought this would destroy the AI, leaving only what was once human. Rogue was about to stomp on Omega Sentinel's head to kill her, but Psylocke said, "Don't. I fried the Sentinel mind. Her human brain is drowning in regret and pain. She's already in hell." Rogue says, "Let's go back to the party." For a moment, it seemed that the tide has turned, but Nimrod was one step ahead. The machine ejected Colossus into space to draw Nightcrawler away from sabotaging the station. The artificial intelligence had fought and won this war billions of times in war games that only existed in ones and zeros. Nimrod never stopped playing war games. He killed billions of souls in his mind. Every time there was only one X-Men left standing after all the others had fallen. This was always a trap. Nimrod had planned to send Colossus into space to get Nightcrawler away, then take care of Psylocke and Rogue, and finally eliminate Colossus and any other X-Men in his way. But every single time, there was always one X-Men left standing. Less simulation and more reality. The end was near. Cyclops was that one mutant, mega mutant, the last one standing. Cyclops' gift had the ability to crack Nimrod's armor, but the machine knew it. The mutants weren't the only ones evolving. Nimrod taunted, "You are the toughest of them all. I'll give you that. I don't know if there is a next life for you, but I promise if there is, I will follow." Cyclops blasted Nimrod with an optic beam, but Nimrod anticipated it and grabbed Cyclops by the throat. As we see each of Nimrod's holding on to one of the X-Men, Synch, Emma Frost, Polaris, Magneto, and of course Cyclops. Nimrod is getting ready to break their necks, and simultaneously, Nimrod says, "Any last words?" Cyclops responds, "She won't let you kill me." Nimrod replies, "Is this more about your dead wife?" "No, allow me to introduce you to Storm." As the goddess enters the picture, declaring there will be no more death, bringing forth her immense Omega-level power. Nimrod, having calculated billion scenarios, never anticipated the last X-Men standing would embody such humanity. He understands Storm's return, assuming she was either dead or out of the picture. If possible, she has become an even stronger Omega-level mutant. This affects every one of the duplicate Nimrods, a flaw he did not perceive perceive. Being able to exist and think across vast distances requires a lot of data and power. This is something that Storm manipulated and exploited. All the Nimrods are currently feeling that electrical flow through their body, disabling them, but they have yet to fully go down. So this is where Polaris and Magneto use their powers to help the goddess as Storm prepares to put down Nimrod. Storm is trying to show some kind of mercy. She says, Nimrod, if you are ever destined to be more than what you've programmed to be, then you will flee from the X-Men or you will die today. What you choose next will decide your fate. Nimrod chooses the battle as Cyclops cuts off the beam meant for Storm. Storm says, if you stop fighting, the war ends. If we stop fighting, we die. As lightning comes down, Cyclops uses an optic blast to crack open Nimrod again. This time, Storm throws a bolt of lightning into the crack. All of the Nimrods feel that lightning bolt inside them. The electrical flow through their body disables them, but they have yet to fully go down. Sync reaches out to grab the power of Storm and use it against Nimrod. Magneto and Polaris create a magnetic field enhancing the Storm's power. The combined force of the lightning and the Storm wipes out all the Nimrod's duplicates, including those hidden away from combat. Nimrod's last words are, "You vermin will follow me into the abyss." Storm says, if you should find yourself wandering back into this life, I suggest you shun death and explore light and love. Omega Sentinel was taken over by the AI, but now she is human again. Cyclops will give her a second chance. Her name is Karima. With the battle being won, X-Men gather everyone together and prepare to leave. Manifold. He asked the universe to open up and teleport them all away. Nimrod had completely subjugated Orchis, and without Nimrod, the Iron Man Sentinels do not exist. They fall from the sky. Orchis is dead. Xavier is a living ghost in the halls. As Xavier sees what has happened, he says, "Good for you, Scott. I never doubted you." Shadowcat breaks down the door and Mrs. Marvel wants to go, but Kitty Pryde is suspicious. Charles Xavier has a long history of making people see what he wanted or not see what he wanted. He is hunted for the destruction of Frigate Agnew, but nobody knows the truth yet, and Xavier is not ready for his game to be over. Something is wrong. Manifold. Teleport does not know where they are as Manifold. He looks up, he sees his big brother Latuka. Latuka took them away from the threat that is currently happening, the threat of Enigma. If Enigma looks in the direction, the only thing they will see is the void of the cosmos. Latuka saved them. They are in good hands with Latuka. Latuka says the universe is on the precipice. Scott Summers, it's your heart that could tip the scales away from death. Orchis is destroyed. Omega Sentinels has been changed. Nimrod and all its duplicates and backups have been deleted. They won. The heroes returned to Krakoa. Thanks to Apocalypse, the island was in hibernation, but will now welcome all of the energies. Before they go off to celebrate, Scott takes a moment. Cyclops takes a minute. Jean, we did it. All we could. We smashed Orchis. We broke everything, big and small. Once again, everything we've been through, the lives, the deaths. We need you to rise again. It always goes back to Nathaniel Essex. He's out there threatening to end us all, but I give you my heart, Jean. Let love save us. I know you can't reply, but I believe you can hear me. Come back and bring the fire. The next battle, Phoenix, Jean Grey versus the Enigma. Stay tuned for Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 5, and the epic news start in Uncanny X-Men, Legacy 700. Resurrection ends and I begin. Every mutant soul burns eternally in me. Feathers and wings beyond comprehension. Our talons, the focus, totality of mutant kind. I am every mutant now and forever. The Phoenix Force, the battle for all time. The epic concludes in the battle between those who are outside time and that which is now and forever. And the result is being decided by whether someone can ultimately make the right choice. The end of the Krakoan era barrels our way as the two series that are one concluded. Rise of the Powers of X, Volume 1, Issue 5, Now and Forever. At the once white, once hot room, a corpse out of time, the Phoenix begins. The Phoenix is reborn. Out comes Jean Grey, reborn as the Phoenix. With an explosion of fire, we have the Phoenix reborn. The Phoenix is beginning, and it's time for the Phoenix to feed, but not like before. This time it's different. This is where the Phoenix begins, where the flame of hope grows. The Phoenix is Jean Grey, and Jean Grey is the Phoenix, but the Phoenix is not just Jean Grey. The Phoenix is taking us to the waiting room, where all the mutants from the waiting room, every mutant that was in the heavens, the ones created by Scarlet Witch had been sitting, waiting to become part of the Phoenix on this day. Resurrection ends and Phoenix begins. Every mutant soul burns in the Phoenix's feathers and wings beyond the comprehension, representing the truly focused totality of mutant kind itself. The Phoenix is now every mutant, forever absorbing all mutants in the waiting room. Jean Grey and the Phoenix take off to face the Dominion. Jean Grey says, "We need to stop Enigma," and asks the Phoenix, "Are you willing?" The Phoenix replies, "You ask if I will burn away a machine made of lies. Mother, it is what we do." From the events of the fall of the House of X, issue 5, on Krakoa, Earth, Rasputin screams out, "Krakoa victorious!" However, another battle is unfolding. Jean Grey, the Phoenix versus Enigma. Cyclops is confident, saying, "If Jean is on it, we've won it." Meanwhile, Mrs. Sinister is not so confident and asks Destiny what she sees. Destiny replies, "The second kindest thing I will ever do for you, Sinister, is not share what I'm seeing." Enigma tells Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force all of the minions have descended from across space. Together we will ensure you are never a threat to us ever again. This battle will be brief. The combination of Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force replies, "If we have to, we'll fight you all the Dominions. However, this is a battle that not even Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force can overcome." This is where things go sideways for Enigma, because all the other Dominions turn their backs on him. The way the Dominions see it, they are beyond all the petty warfare, squabbling, and linear thinking. They have no fear and let him know that to truly become a Dominion means escaping all this. When all the others possess are you, and how can you fear them? Choosing to return to war and genocide means continuing to see others as threats rather than as potential allies. They tell Enigma that while he may become a Dominion, he hasn't ascended as he properly should have. They tell Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force they wish them no harm now and forever. They are outside and there is no overlap. Any action you take to defend yourself against Enigma is acceptable to all Dominions. They say, "We will see you soon, never and always." The Dominions then take off. Enigma is very disappointed in the other Dominions. He thought they would join forces to destroy Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force. As the odds have been evened out a little bit, Enigma says, "You're still a bird fresh from the egg. I wanted to stand with my fraternity as it would be more efficient, but I raised myself higher than they ever has by the longest ride unimaginable. I'm not afraid to fight, but ultimately I don't have to. I have more places to hide, and you have things I can hurt. Find me before I destroy everything you ever made." Enigma runs away to hurt people Jean loves. Jean says to the Phoenix Force, "Catch him quickly." Professor X has made his way into the enemy's nest. He is at Orchis headquarters and has finally met the person he has done all this for. He finally runs into Moira. He tells her that he is here, open her mind. If they're going to talk, it needs to be a more suitable manner. Charles physically connects to Moira. She believes she's a robot and says, "Can't do a telepathic takeover. You can't even project. I have defenses. How did you get into my mind?" Charles Xavier responds, "This isn't a takeover, but a signal. You can leave at any time. You are a thinking creature. I left a beacon. I could guide this message to you. It's time to remember what happened." Charles Xavier wants to remember. As a memory, Charles Xavier holds a gun to a young Moira. She says, "You came back to kill me? You even pulled the trigger." Professor X admits, "Yes, I let you live because I was convinced to follow another route, one that involved having faith in you and your better nature." Moira retorts, "You showed me that you almost gunned down a 13-year-old, and now you ask me to take the moral high ground?" Professor X responds, "Yes, I know I told everyone it was unlikely, yet this is where we find ourselves. We pick up with Jean Grey trying to find Enigma. Jean is fighting him, trying to locate him throughout time. Enigma is hiding anywhere he can. Jean is the Phoenix. The Phoenix is Jean, now and forever. Enigma is going through time to change things in Jean's life. Enigma first goes to Jean Grey's parents to strengthen their will not to send Jean to the strange school. Then Enigma copies Jean's full personality and implants it into Madeline to be activated when Scott decides to leave her. Enigma ensures that Jean Grey does not notice her husband's emotional affair with Emma Frost until later. In Judgment Day, the Agitator passes her, increasing her arrogance and leaving her vulnerable. Enigma is trying to hide, and time is not on the side of Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force. Each time, Jean catches the mistake, but it only takes one slip to alter everything forever. Back at Orchis, Charles Xavier says, "Knowing who you are, I knew knew you would join Enigma. As such, you are a small part of it now. That is what I needed. I knew if I did the odious thing Orchis demanded, I could find my way to you when you were deep in the camp of the enemy and have the chance to make you turn back. Moira says, I finally found an escape from the trap my damaged genes have built for me. You really think I'm going to back off? Charles Xavier responds, the Dominion grew from Sinister. It is Nathaniel Essex you'll be making king of the universe. That is Orchis' great sin, not to make AI, but to realize AI they were enabling. Moira says, Essex, I can't do anything. I'm not a Titan yet. And even if I were, if I attack him, he'd just chew me up. Professor Xavier says, as we speak, Jean is fighting him across all that ever was. She cannot land a blow because she cannot find him. If you activate the signal I put in your brain when you were 13, she could find you. Moira says, you can't be asking me to do this, you bastard. Charles Xavier replies, all the things I've done, the murder, betrayal, colluding with my other righteous to understand the Phoenix enough to put this all together. I've done this to be here to ask you to be a better person. Whatever is left of your soul, you can save it now. You will have to live with your decision forever next to the monster you have put on a throne. How long could you bear it? Because you will have to for time beyond time. It's not too late. In a world of worse choices, you could make the best choice you can. Moira says, I just wanted to live, to not be trapped. Why are you trying this? Really? What makes you think this can't work? Charles Xavier said, at the start of this, I believed in you. You took us to Krakoa, and for a while it was wonderful. This all came from me believing in you, and in the end, I would hate to have been wrong about everything. Moira, with tears streaming down her face, says, God, Charles, I would love to disappoint you. Charles able to convince Moira to send out the signal to Jean Grey, telling Jean to come and get her. In a matter of moments, the Phoenix arrives, and we see Moira burnt to a crisp. With Moira taken out of the picture, Enigma must face the Phoenix one-on-one. All right, let the fight begin. Enigma is ready. As Jean Grey says, it doesn't matter how powerful you are. You're only one. The Phoenix is the X-Men. This is where we see spirits of every X-Man that was in the waiting room. 200,000. Every X-Man that was absorbed into the Phoenix. They come forth, including Storm, White Queen, Magic, Colossus, Jubilee, Cannibal, Rogue, Magneto, Dazzler, Forge, Sync, Polaris, Shadowcat, Firestorm, Gambit, Penance, Psylocke, Prodigy, Frenzy, Nightcrawler, Manifold, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Goblin Queen, Nova Castro, Sunfire, Wolverine, Kid Omega, Gwenpool, John Ironfire, Callisto, Blob, Toad, Cardinal, Sage, Banshee, Pyro, and many, many others. All the astral form X-Men come forth to dominate Enigma. This is more than just throwing punches, kicks, and elbows. This is seeing Enigma in a more humanoid form, looking more like Sinister. The fight, the battle, it's more about strategy and who can summon up the most ultimate power. Jean Grey, the Phoenix Force, and the power of all X-Men say, you can't stop us all. Enigma responds, I won. I was there. I have seen every situation. I believe that I won, but this has never happened before. This doesn't happen. He thinks maybe he can hide, but he can't get away. This is the end of Enigma. As the Phoenix drives Wolverine's claws right through the skull of Enigma, the claws of the Phoenix itself, the talons that are weapons of devastation, are what dropped the Dominion out of existence. Enigma says, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. I can hide. There has to be somewhere I can hide. Silent. With the return of Jean Grey, everybody celebrates, knowing that the day has been won and Enigma has been defeated. Jean Grey smiles, going to the arms of Cyclops, grabbing hold of him and kissing him. She says, we have got all the time in the world. Rasputin 4 is still around and looking to end Sinister's life, but nobody knows where he is. Destiny reassures them, saying that he's elsewhere, but not to worry because he will get his due. As we pick up 1 week later, we find Charles Xavier sitting on a bench, waiting for the arrival of the cavalry. He knew they would come as soon as he showed his face again. Guns drawn. Professor Xavier is taken into custody. It's safe to assume Charles Xavier, Professor X, is going to be Inmate X in X-Men from the Ashes. The timeline has not been reset. All events Krakoa exist. The series ends with Krakoa still existing on Earth 616. In the white-hot room, there are over 200,000 mutants who are starting a new Krakoa, and maybe this time they can actually achieve a nation of peace. Enigma's fragments have been scattered across reality, with the Phoenix dispersing Enigma as a message to anybody who might ever threaten them again. The tiger, the internal foe the Phoenix defeated, returns to sulk in the darkness around the white-hot room. The tiger god, known in the pages of Iron Fist, is the antithesis to the Phoenix Force, light and dark. The series also ends with Moira Mataga showing us that her mutant gene, which was supposed to be activated at age 13, it doesn't. Moira is finally free. Next, X-Men Volume 6, Issue 35, Legacy 700.